Welcome to Awakening Potential Podcast, your gateway into the extraordinary. And today we're featuring Anna J. Lewis, known as the confidence boosting diva. Love that. Who has mastered turning everyday moments into milestones of wisdom as she inspires women, to embrace their true value with the realization that they are one of a kind, fearfully and wonderfully made. She's an
Yes.
author, an entrepreneur, and an ordained minister. And her greatest joy is sharing the good she's discovered with others. Anna J. Lewis embodies the transformation from ordinary to extraordinary, making her the perfect guide for today's exploration. Join us as we delve into her transformational journey and glean insights to elevate our own lives. Let's embark in lightening the journey together. And a warm welcome to you, Anna. Thank you so much for
Thank
being here.
you. Thank you so much, Karen. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be here with you today. And thank you for the invite and thank you for your time. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited as well because as I was reading your bio as well, I'm like, we have so much in common, we there are many of us that do what we do, but we do it differently, right? Because we're all unique. I too am an ordained minister. And, I don't call myself reverend or minister or anything like that. And I noticed in all of your stuff, you don't mention it as well. And not that it doesn't in the background. I don't know about you, but for the background for me, that's what like propels me forward. What about you? Like where?
It's a position of a servant.
Yeah, exactly.
As an ordained minister, I'm a servant. I call myself a speaker of life and encourager of God's people. I did that before I ever met Forbes Riley, who's changed some things in my life. So I've always been a speaker of life and an encourager of God's people because I like to share the good that I encounter. I've been through so many things in my life, Karen, that I know what it feels like to be on the butt end of pain and frustration and all and rejection and all that. And I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. And so I'm here to share good and life with people and to sow seeds of encouragement because we're all so beautifully, fearfully, and wonderfully made. And we're all so unique. And there's the giftings and talents that we have. The world is waiting to hear what we have to say, to see us be bold enough, to courageous enough to step out and say, make our voice known, hear how our voice heard. And I'm getting more and more of that lately, just getting my voice heard, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it, making the connections and being able to encourage other people because there's greatness in all of us.
Absolutely, absolutely. You and I met in Forbes Riley's speaker
Yes.
training course. You're so much further along than I am, but I'm having a blast with it, and I've been meeting the most amazing people, you being one of them, of course. And I just love your energy, and you're always so vibrant and smiling all the time and happy all the time. Who is Anna the woman? I'm curious. Like, what's your backstory?
I grew up in a household with six women. My parents had six children, one boy and five girls, and I'm the oldest. So responsibility has always been my middle name. And there's been some times when I rebelled against that, but it's ingrained in me. Sometimes you just need to get a break. It's some me time, some self-care time where you don't have to be emptying into other people. Because when you're emptying over into other people, pouring into other people continually, you're emptying out from yourself and you need to be refreshed and refilled. And that's what I'm doing with my life at this point in time. I'm having some me time, some time to invest into developing Anna J and figuring out who she is and what she's bringing to the world, because I've always been the one that was pouring into others and serving others and encouraging others. And sometimes you just have to encourage yourself. I say that sometimes you have to encourage yourself, girl. Come on now. You
Absolutely.
deserve some encouragement too.
I just got off the phone with a client and I was telling them the same thing. Like, we're not always here to lift it. I like to say lift and be the air beneath your wings. But sometimes you have to encourage yourself and be your own air and lift yourself and flap your wings a little bit so it will take
So
you
true.
higher and bring you up. Yeah.
So true. And you can run out of breath after you've been blowing up blowing other people's wings and lifting them higher. Sometimes you don't have no more breath to blow, right? It's like, come on now, it's time to recharge. And
Exactly.
people deserve that. And when you continue to serve and to pour into others and you don't take any time for yourself, what you're giving to other people is diminished. It's like you say you love people. Okay, the Bible says that we should love our neighbors as ourselves. And if we don't love ourselves, what kind of love are we sharing abroad? What kind of love are we pouring into others? It's not the best us. Yeah, so we have to realize that even when you get on an airplane, Karen, I know you know this, they always tell you put your own mask on first before you take care of your little baby. You know you want to take care of your little baby, okay, before you take care of you, because that's what women do. We're nurturers. But
Exactly.
if you aren't able, or if you're not in a position that you don't have anything to give, then it's just hot air, and it's such a waste, and it's such a disservice to the people we're here to serve.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I was on a call Sunday evening, actually. I do a lot of personal growth and development as well, as I'm sure you do as well. Because for me, it's always about expanding. When I expand myself, I can give back differently, fully to others and be the servant leader that I have chosen to step into as well. And one of the things that I heard, which just sort of put me like at pause for a moment, was, are we living our life or are we just existing in a life? And I had to stop and think about that, for a moment and say, am I putting the oxygen mask on everybody else? And what about
Mm.
Karen? And that was a tough lesson for me to learn. It took me many years to learn it. Thank goodness I did, because now I live a life of joy, which brings me a lot of smiles and upbeat energy. And, what's it been for you? I mean, obviously you're here to empower, liberate, and uplift as well. What does that look like for you?
It's been a rocky road and a long road for me with the things I've had to deal with in my life, and all the challenges that have come up. Life happens. And I'm learning that life happens for you, not to you. But when you're in the frying pan, when you're in the fire, it feels like it's happening to you. And sometimes you find yourself in those situations and you feel so alone. I felt so alone sometimes in life. And it's like when I'm in the house by myself, it's like, oh my gosh, when is my hubby coming back home? He could be in the house and I don't even speak to him for hours, but if he's in the house, I'm okay. Right. So it's been a learning curve to realize that it's okay. It's okay to love yourself. It's okay to pour into yourself. It's okay. And we're not taught that. We're taught to multitask. We're taught to be nurturers, to pour and to give and to give and to be that energetic, what is that little
But
energizer bunny? And that's not real. People get exhausted. People need to refresh. People need to regroup. And people need to understand that. And people need to understand that no is an answer. If you're not able to do something, when you say no, well, how come? Why can't you do it for me? You always did it for me before. Well, come
exactly.
on now. Give me a break. Can I have some room to breathe? And I'm
Yeah,
giving myself some room to breathe because
love that.
I haven't had a lot of that in my life.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm so grateful to hear that you're doing it, because creating boundaries for ourselves is loving ourselves. And
Yes.
then we forget it. And no is a complete sentence. No dot, period. And I used to have to give explanation. I don't know about you, but I used to have to give explanations. No, because da, da, da. We don't owe anybody an explanation.
That's so true.
Because as soon as you explain something, you're giving your power away to it. And just being a no is creating the space of boundaries and allowing people to know that not only are you serious, but you're loving yourself. So you're demonstrating to others that
Yes.
what self-love looks like. And it's not something we're taught, right? It's
No.
trial and error. I have three daughters, and putting on my oxygen mask first was like, I didn't even know what that looked like, and I was sinking fast. So there with you.
I
So
know
there.
that sinking spirit. I remember as a single parent with three young children, and I was working two jobs, and we came to this family agreement. When I get paid on my second job, we're going to take turns. It's going to be your turn, then your turn, then your turn, and then it's going to be my turn. But my turn never came. Every time we came around to that fourth paycheck, except the kids needed something else and something else, and it was always something, and that can be so frustrating when you because you want to make sure you provide for your children and for your family. You want to do that and to be that strong person, but sometimes you just need to get away.
Absolutely. I'm really curious because I too was a single mom of three. And what did I think it was for me, and I don't know what it was for you, and I'd be curious to hear your take on this. But it took me going through my divorce, which was a horrific divorce. It took 4 years to go through and ooh, gobs of money. And I have daughters. I have three daughters. And I remember having to go before the courts and my paralegal, oh my God, he was amazing. He was my cheerleader. And he's like, Karen, every time you bitch and complain and whine, cha-ching, it's costing you money. Like, is this really what you're taking out of the mouths of your kids? And I paused and I stopped and I thought about it because I was so in victim role at the time. Oh my God, everybody else is doing this to me, right?
Right.
I don't remember three fingers were coming back and like, okay, we're responsible. And am I going to allow the courts, the judge, to decide my future? So I ended up delving into communication courses. So it was a true story. And I said, never, ever again will I be out of communication because I'm my children's first teacher. And what am I modeling for them? Number one. And number two, how can I be an advocate for them if I can't be there for myself? And
Right.
all of a sudden I started stepping into my power. I had no idea. And my knees were knocking, and I remember his name was Cliff. Oh my God, he was amazing paralegal. And he said, Karen, go into the courtroom and listen to the judge and remember he's just a person. I had him on this pedestal, right? And
Right.
I was like scraping. I was so scraping. And I remember going and I was literally shaking and I sat in the courtroom prior to my date. And all of a sudden I had this vision of him brushing his teeth on the throne. And I busted out laughing in the courtroom. And he looked at me and he says, is everything okay? Yes, yes, yes. And I went flying out of the courtroom as life would happen, right? Life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, right? As life would happen, they assigned me a different judge.
Oh my gosh. Did you envision him brushing his teeth on a throne
I
too?
did not. I did not. I sat there going, when is it my turn to speak? Because I took all these communication courses and the attorneys wouldn't let us speak. So you never know what life's going to give you. But that was, I think, being a single mom, the bottom line, being a single mom was my greatest lesson and my greatest gift. What was it for you? I mean, it was with the challenges and I call it dart throwing. I was doing one of these and I would take it until finally I learned to like,
Get out of the way, right?
yeah, like, what was your experience of that?
My experience was so different from yours, Karen. I was a very angry woman.
Mm,
And I thought all men literally were dogs. I didn't think there were any good men in the world. I felt like I had been abandoned and left with three children with no support. I never received child support from my ex-husband. He wasn't there for us. He was in and out of our lives. What he was chasing was more important to him. Some he had something that he was figuring out how to make money in Vegas. We left Texas and moved to Vegas because he had this system and he was going to do this and he was going to do that, and we ended up homeless and living in our car, and so many things happened, and it was not a good time. I
mm,
was naive enough to say, in the beginning, oh wow, I don't care if we have to live in a tree, I'm gonna be with you. Well, what a fool, what a foolish thing to say. Your children can't live in a tree, and living in a car and having to go to the park to wash up before you go to work, because I always worked, and wash my baby's hands. I remember washing my son's hands beneath the water faucet at the park. Thank goodness they kept the water on, right? So I
yeah.
went through all of these things, and I would have stayed married to that man till he died, because he has passed away. But my mother said to me, she said, Anna, it's a terrible thing to only have 15 years of marriage and only have 3 children to show for it. And it's like she never got in our business. She let us do what we needed to do. She never gave us advice, but she felt strongly to say that to me, and she spoke that to me, and it was like a release. And when
Yeah.
I went to the courthouse, it was no contest with my divorce, no money, nothing to be divided. I was like, oh my God. So when I went to the courthouse, I felt like such a failure. But
Mhm.
once it was done, it was like such a relief. And that man, he sent me a card, a greeting card with a bride and groom on it, sliding off the cake. That's his way of humor, laughing about what was going on. He told me, nobody wants a ready-made family, Anna. And then when people speak those kind of things, sometimes you internalize those things, and I did. For the
Mhm.
longest time, I did.
I did too.
So
Yeah.
it's nice to grow past that and realize that it was a lie. That was his lie. That was his belief. That was how he felt. But
Yeah.
everybody doesn't feel that way. And so this time around, I've been married, be 35 years in November, and it's all been good. It's all been good.
Jay. But I'm willing to bet that experience made you stronger to be able to deal with life and the children and the circumstances and the challenges that you were facing at the moment.
You
When you
have to be. You have to be able to stand and go through it. You can't give up. If you give up, it's not just about you. When you've got other lives depending on you, you cannot give up. You cannot sit down. You cannot stop. You got to keep pressing and doing the best that you can do. And it was hard for my children because I lived in a community where there was so many other single moms, and they all received assistance from the government, uh,
Mhm.
and I didn't do that. I attempted to do that, and I felt like people are all up in your business. I didn't want. That wasn't for me. I just couldn't handle that, and
Yeah.
so my children were watching other children with designer coats and shoes, and we were just. I mean, it's like, listen. You got some clothes, you got some food, be happy, okay? Don't let anything rob your joy. Can we just find some joy in this situation that we're here together? We're working through this together. And it was hard because I couldn't handle anything negative. My children had a hard time because
Yeah.
all I wanted to hear was the good stuff. Okay, don't bring me anything bad. I can't handle anything bad. It's just too much going on in my head and my mind. I was too angry. And
Yeah.
they went through a lot. And my younger son said, when I finally remarried, he said, by the time things got better, because things got better when I remarried, by the time things got better, it was too late for my older son. My older son went through a horrific upbringing in the system. And
Mhm.
it was a 24-year ordeal because when your child's caught up in the system, you're there with them.
Yeah.
So it's been quite the journey, but God is good, and life is getting sweeter every day,
Yeah.
Karen.
And
And I'm so thankful.
I love it, and I love your mindset and your resilience. You know, it really shows in who you are and who you be today. And, it doesn't define us as people, right? When I was going through my journey of victimhood and, I used to think that that was it for me. Like I wasn't enough. I was stupid. I went through all these things as well. And I couldn't make a decision to save my life. And of course, my children blamed me for them not being making decisions. And I went, I've got to be responsible for a part of that. But yes, it was challenging. It was
It
very
was challenging.
challenging. And my hats off to all the single moms out there because it is challenging. It is rough. And, it really creates that space, I believe, of the true grit within us
Yes.
to
Yeah,
really,
I like that. The
you
true
know,
grit. I like that. Wow. It's in us.
it
We
is.
have the ability and to stand and to continue to push forward.
Yeah. One of the things I've come to learn, and I'm curious to hear what your biggest takeaway was as well. One of the biggest things that I've learned along the journey is also that your brain is always listening. It's always on. So if I continued to call myself stupid, my brain was looking for ways and means of justifying and proving that I was stupid. And I remember going, I was doing 6 hours of carpool back in the day, and I was living in Orlando, Florida. And I was getting off, I just picked up my last child, and I was getting off the I-4, which is like bumper to bumper traffic, and it's not a fun place to drive. And I was always listening to audio. And I remember, and I don't know whose voice it was, but it came on my radio that I was listening to. And the kids would always like be arguing and doing whatever they were doing in the back seats. And I remember hearing, and I was
Yeah.
constantly praying for strength. Please, God, please, a little more. Help us. And I remember hearing on the radio, the more you pray for strength, the more you're going to get more challenges to prove how strong you are.
Wow.
And I heard that and I stopped instantly. And I remember pulling over and just being with that thought for a moment. And it was like, okay, well, if I'm not going to pray for strength, then what am I going to pray for? And all of a sudden, and I love the way the universe works, right? I love the way I get these messages. All of a sudden, a friend of mine who is also a minister comes into my space and says, "Hey, you want to read this book with me?" And it was Jabez.
The Jabez prayer?
Yes.
Yes.
And it was like, pray for wisdom, pray for wisdom, pray for wisdom. And I went, okay, so now from this day forward, that's all I from that day forward, all I do is pray for wisdom now and the guidance to support me in supporting others. And it's just like one thing closes, another one opens, but it was just amazing the way it worked. And I studied that prayer with this friend of mine from Texas, another person from Texas. And all summer long, we read that and just pulled it apart. And it was just an amazing journey moving forward of what's possible in life.
Yeah,
So,
and it's
okay, I'm sorry.
no, it's just amazing that you're talking about the prayer of Jabez because I just laminated a bunch of those for my friends when we went to Vegas when we had our 5th year anniversary in Vegas over the last weekend. And I laminated a lot of those prayers so that it had a prayer broken down into the different 4 parts that you can ask God for and believe Him for. And it's just amazing. So we're doing that on a daily basis, just declaring, bless me, Lord, give me wisdom, expand my influence, and all those different. It just spoke to me.
Yeah,
I found someone had done broken it down, and I found it on the internet, and I thought, this is amazing. I like this. I'm gonna type this up and print it and have it so I can have it with my daily confessions and things. So I think that's beautiful. That
yeah.
is absolutely beautiful.
So as we're here, Anna Jay, as we're here awakening potential and not just ourselves and others, what would be one of the big things that you'd love to leave the listening audience, somebody who is going through their trials and tribulations, what would be that word of wisdom that you would like to leave them with?
Life happens and we go through ups and downs, but the thing about going through the fire, you either learn the lesson or you don't. And when you learn the lesson and you apply the wisdom and knowledge that you've achieved, you can leave all that behind. There's always going to be another obstacle, another challenge before us because life happens. But when you equip yourself to go through the fire, to go through the fire, knowing that the victory belongs to you, your victory is on the other side. It's like an open book test.
Yes,
Okay, it's an open book test, and the victory belongs to you. So whatever it is, know that you have the victory. Know that you have favor. Know that you can get wisdom. Know that you can seek out wisdom for whatever you're going through to find a solution. Be solution oriented instead of allowing things to rob your joy. It's a choice you make to let things rob your joy because there's always going to be something. In this world, if you're looking around in the natural, there's always going to be darkness. But where's the silver lining? What can you learn from that? What can you apply to your life? What will make you better? And that's what we're here to do, to keep pushing, keep on pushing and getting better, right?
love that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. all of your contact information will be in the show notes for sure, when it gets posted. Is there anything in particular? I know you talked about a free gift for the
Yeah.
listening audience. You want to give just a little blurb of what
Yeah.
it is, and that will be in the show notes, or also tell us where it is now. And
Thank you. Thank you so much, Karen. I do have a free gift, and I'd love it for people to just go to freegiftfromanaj.com and get my book, Reboot Your Life, because it's time for you to refresh, to reboot, and recharge.
awesome, awesome, awesome. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you, Anna J. Lewis, for your contributions today. It's been such an honor and such a pleasure.
My
Uh,
pleasure.
Thank you. I just love the connection. It's brought me a lot of joy, and hopefully, I'm trusting, not hopefully, I'm trusting that someone in the listening audience who's listening today will, there'll be something in there that sparks interest in them, that they're able to move forward as well. And to our listening audience, thank you so much for joining us today on Awakening Potential podcast. As you step back into your world, remember, the bridge from the ordinary to the extraordinary is built with small steps of change and big leaps of faith.
Yes.
Let today's insights from Anna be the guiding light as you navigate your own journey. And until next time, continue to awaken your potential and illuminate the extraordinary within. Stay inspired. Bye for
Yes.
now.